Hello, heathens.
Hello, Heathens.
How's everybody been?
How are we doing with this Pisces full moon that we're in?
With a lunar eclipse.
Seriously. Although I did give a really good tarot card reading, so that was nice.
Oh, okay, that's good. Help you tap
Hmm
into that intuition even more, hey?
I was like, oh, Pisces.
I
I
love
like it. I
it.
like it.
Also, I was driving home that night and I was like, oh my God, I wish my car could drive itself so I could just stare at the moon.
Yeah, right. I was like, hi.
It was so pretty. And then like at one point there was like this little cloud. It looked like a painting of like a cloud just like touching the
hmm
moon. And I was like, oh my God. It's
I was like,
so
I can't even
pretty.
drive right now.
It's like I can focus on nothing else, just the moon.
I'm like the biggest fan. I'm like, will you sign my birth chart?
I have it
I
right
don't know.
here.
Will you sign my
I'm like, how long can I stare at the moon and drive without
and
having to
not
look at the road
and not unalive myself.
and or anybody else?
Right.
I was like, it's so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then for
Agreed.
some reason, I don't know why this is in my head, but I was thinking the closer I drive to it, the bigger it would get. It didn't happen.
Oh, closer would be more like spaceship closer.
I
That would
need
make it.
I need to go up, not forward.
I remember at some point I was driving home and I was like, where'd it go?
Where to go? And then I
It was
started
behind my rear mirror.
worse. I remember I was thinking about, do you remember the movie Bruce Almighty?
Mm-hmm.
And he pulls the moon closer, and I was like, "Ah, if only it wouldn't mess up the tides. I just want her closer. It was so good. Ugh.
Just come closer.
Just please come closer. You're so pretty. And I was like, you could see the man on the moon. We
That's
love
how
the
I feel.
moon. In this
That's how
household,
I
we
feel.
love the moon.
That's how I feel when I see the moon. It's like breath taken away.
In awe.
I feel butterflies in my stomach.
So pretty. I was gonna say, I think when I was looking it up, it was like if hard feelings come up, you have to like basically be the watcher instead of the feeler with Pisces because it like
Yeah.
can bring up a lot of that emotion. I was like, now that we've done like almost all of our astrology bits, I felt like I understood it more because I was like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Pisces, duh. Like it's like instead of feeling your feelings, you or not feeling your feelings, instead of like letting your feelings overwhelm you, you follow your intuition instead and listen to that. I was like,
Right.
oh,
Well, the main thing that I heard with this one was um, letting go of like feelings that no longer serve you, hurts and stuff like that.
hmm,
And, releasing those. Um, I also thought about it being in the 12th house and ruler of the 12th house and how cycles are ending and stuff like that. So that was the other thing that I was like kind of mindful about. Not that it necessarily, I know it plays somewhat of like a taste of that, not really like a whole flavor. So it's, that is in there as well, like that if we're releasing or that's ending kind of thing. Like that's where we're ending and that's where so it was interesting because while I was driving as well, that's when I was like, oh, that's right, 12th house. So done. Donezo. But then I also noticed there was a lot of car accidents. And I'm like, that's very mercurial. So then I was like, oh, because the sun is in Virgo right now, which is uh ruled by Mercury.
mm.
I'm
What?
wondering if the full moon's power kind of made that for some reason, obviously above my own knowledge, but like if there's a connection there and I don't necessarily know how to like get that, but like I noticed the pattern for sure.
And what day or what planet rules Tuesdays?
Mars.
Mm, yeah, Tuesday was a day. She sure was a
Well,
day.
it was interesting because I almost thought it should be less because I feel like Mars and well, I was looking at it wrong because Mars in Pisces, I was like, oh, it's going to be a little less because, the Pisces kind of like drowns out that energy. But then I didn't even think about it being in Mercury because of Virgo. I completely, it did not exist at that point.
No, I mean you're making me speechless because I'm over here thinking because I'm like, damn, I didn't even think about that. All I thought about was the day of the week and like the sign Pisces, not even 12th house, not even the Virgo, Mercury, boot, sun, all of that. I'm like, oh, brain on overload. I'm like, this just, it's making more sense. Because, yeah, there
Brain.
was an insane amount of traffic. And I was like, I had to go all the back ways
Yes.
to get to work because everything was like 45 minutes. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, what is happening?
There was a lot of traffic every day. It wasn't even just like one day was special and not. It was every day this week. Um, a lot of car accidents. There was a really bad one. There was two really bad ones, I think, this week. There was one with a state trooper on 96, 696, something like that. And then there was just one on like M14 and Goddard, I think, yesterday that was really bad. They were doing an investigation and stuff. And that's not even counting the multiple on the side of the road cars as well.
Wow,
I was
freaking
like,
mess.
is it Mercury in retrograde? Like, why is all this car stuff and traveling shit coming up? Like, I don't understand.
Me, every time that something's happening, like that's like, this is a lot. I'm like running to my phone and checking, like, what's happening? Where's What's going on? What is this?
Hmm. Like, where is it in the stars? I want to see it in the stars. Show me. Show me your secrets. All right, buddy, let's get on this whole thing because we're going to be here for another 24 hours because it's a lot, people, a lot.
I think sometimes we have these really great ideas for episodes and then we don't realize how much it's going to be until we're getting deep into the research and then we're like, holy shit. So this is probably going to be another bigger episode because we're doing all the extra bits of astrology and extra bits is not exactly the right way to say this because I feel like it's like extra chunks because these are big chunks that we pulled for today.
Can we pause it for just a minute?
Oh, yeah. Okay, we're back.
Sorry about that brief pause,
Yes. Refresh.
brief
Life
pause.
happens outside of this podcast.
Absolutely.
Sometimes,
I had to rescue a daughter from school.
yes. Sometimes Nicole has to be a mom, a very present mom.
Absolutely.
Sometimes meaning most of all the time.
It was just funny because I looked over, and you'll probably see it in the video, but I looked over and I was gathering information and I saw she was calling. I saw that she had text and I saw the word upset. And that's all I needed to know.
And then it's like you're processing while also trying to process, and it's like, okay, yeah, I gotta hold on, get
Hmm.
it. Okay,
Rapid fire session.
literally, literally, Pisces moon's like, here's another one. You're welcome.
Yeah, Pisces. I did tell her that too. I was like, she's like, I don't even know why I'm all upset about this. And I was like, Pisces full moon, dude. And she's like, yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense. Well, she has a lot
Oh,
of
babe.
Pisces in her chart too.
Does she?
I think she has a stellium, if not something bigger, because she's got a lot of placements in her Pisces or in Pisces.
Oh, baby.
I should have
That's,
brought that one up.
yeah, true. Well, at least later you'll be able to explain that to her and that'll help her too, Because I feel like when you find out that, like, it's not just you being whatever, you think you're being sensitive or you're doing this and that and you're
Hmm.
putting yourself down because, like, you're feeling your feelings. And then it's like you find out, oh, okay, there's actually a really powerful force affecting me right now. And it's not just me and I'm not just crazy. It feels way better.
Well, it
Oh,
gives it,
yeah.
it gives it a, because I don't want to use it as a blame. Like, I don't want to be a victim to it.
No.
It does like, I understand why I feel like this instead of like just being like, heaven forbids, like if for me it makes it very much of like a science, like analytical, like I'm gathering information. This is why I feel this way. And it gives me permission to feel that way too.
I was like, it almost gives you a pass. It's like, okay, cool. Like, I
Yeah.
don't have to make myself feel like I'm just like, my life is so awful and my life is horrible and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now I know like why I'm feeling
Hmm.
this way and I can actually deal with it instead of being like, you said, a victim to it and being like, my whole life sucks.
Well, yeah, because like in my own way I process information is I always think it's my fault and I need to be better. Like I'm not good enough, right?
Yes.
And with that, at least gives me like, oh, this is normal. I mean,
Yes.
for whatever that is, but like, oh, I'm supposed to kind of feel this little bit of sadness or feel this little bit of like turbulence.
Yes. Sorry, my
Okay, on with our 300 or 3 hour episode.
yes. Um, okay, Nicole, why don't we start with yours and get through the info you gave us,
Okay.
and then I'll try to run through mine because I will try to make them quicker than we're briefly touching these topics, you guys. If something sparks interest with you, we commend you to look it up, just so you know.
Yeah, I'd say at this point, write down key S points as we're talking about each aspect. And then that way you can, because you're going to have to either dig deeper on the meaning of the actual like event that we're talking about, but also you're going to have to look at your chart and find out what either what house rules it or what what planet rules that house, what flavor it is. And then if you want to dig deeper, it's about how they have a relationship together in there. And this is kind of what I'm going to go over with. So the first one is the ascendant, which we are kind of really familiar about it. This will always be your first house. So this is the energy that you're putting out to the world. Um, this also sets your whole chart in how it's going to be throughout the other houses and stuff like that. Um, this is how a lot of times we, as children, we have either gained acceptance on what good behavior was and what bad behavior was. Um, this is also the moment of your first breath. That's how they come up with this. Um, and it's also a filter that you put on. So how Snapchat has those filters, this would be a filter that's just like that.
Sima.
Um, so for me, I put on a very Libra type of quality. Like, hello, how are you? Very friendly, a little flirty, like that kind of energy. Um, although right now I feel like I'm very much in my Capricorn right now, but you know.
Yeah.
So midheavens is on the other side of, well, it's kind of, I think they're like sisters. Midheaven is always in your 10th house. And this is at the highest point of your chart. This is where the sun would be at its fullest. So this can lead to faint, like what you could, um, if you wanted to find success in your life, you would look where it's at, and that would be what direction you would go to. So if it was, what is mine? Mine is in Leo. So with my success, I would want to be seen. I would want to be shining out like the sun. This is our highest potential, our ideal career. Um, this is the legacy that we're going to leave on, like the mark on the world, our purpose in life, and how the public sees us.
I also have that it's associated a lot with Capricorn too because of like its businessy nature, which I
That
think
would
in
be
my
because it's in
head
the 10th house too. Yeah, that
it
makes
makes it
sense.
easier for me to like remember what it is because when I think midheaven, I can think like Capricorn nature, even if it's not in Capricorn's not the ruling sign of that house at that point in your chart. It's like that makes sense because then I'm like, oh, okay, your public image, your professional life, career.
Right, because like that would be the foundation would be the Capricorn about career and public like your successful life. And then if mine has so weird because if you think about it, like I have a lot of opposing stuff in my chart. So my midheaven is in the 10th house, obviously, in Leo, but I have Saturn in that house.
So that would be your midheaven would be conjunct your Saturn.
Right, because they are in the same house.
Yeah, it's like their fringe. I
Different.
tried to make that make sense for myself earlier because I was like, I'm confused on the conjunct. So it's like they're friends. So your Saturn and your midheaven or heaven work well together,
I'm not
essentially.
sure. I got a little confused in the conjunction because one person said that it had to be within 8 degrees of itself too.
Oh,
So I don't know if
see.
it's just the whole house. It would be something I'd have to research because I didn't find um multiple sources on that, like to see if that was like a thing or is that her thing, like, you know, so it could be just in the same house or it might have to be actually like 8 degrees within each other.
Yeah, like really close to each other. Gotcha.
Hmm. Um, but that's what I have. Okay, where I'm in heaven stuff. Okay, so
Yeah.
conjunct is two planets in the same sign, within 8 degrees of each other. They're together, they're blended together. And it doesn't matter. This doesn't mean they're going to be good or bad. It can be both. So like an example is if you had a Venus too close to Mars, it's going to be good or indifferent to Mars, but that Venus is going to bring on those Martian qualities. So that's how the flavor it's going to be. It's going to be a little more spicier than if it wasn't, if they weren't so close together.
Yeah, and then when you have like these extra not celestial beings or like party or planets, these points on your chart like the midheaven, the nodes, all those things, that's what we are talking about when they're close together, that's when they can have bigger effects on each other.
Yeah, like right now I have Jupiter and the moon in my house, even though they're in the same house. But no, they're in different houses with the same sign. Those are eight. I wonder if they have to be in the same house. I think it said it had to be in the same
On
house. So
Hey,
maybe those aren't conjunct.
on the pattern,
The
whatever this
pattern.
friggin' app is, over here in the right, which you can't really see on the screen. Hey, there we go. If you go to aspects too, it'll tell you like your some of your squares and conjuncts and all of that.
Okay, because I was wondering if that would be a conjunction, but they're in the different houses. Aspects.
Aspects.
Jupiter, yeah, Jupiter conjunct the moon. So that is right. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, or maybe I don't know about these rules. So we'd have to look more into the rules, but Jupiter is conjunct the moon. Oh, cool. All right, so for me, that would be like Jupiter likes to make things expand. So the moon and its feelings and what it feels like are big. They're trying to expand.
And it's so funny. Saturn is conjunct my moon. Isn't that
Oh
funny?
God. Yeah, so that wants to put restrictions and boundaries and authority kind of feeling.
And the title for it on the pattern is unconventional or detached.
That's
Well, Saturn's moon.
that's pretty true.
Yep. And it's in Aquarius. Yep.
Yep,
Up.
yep. We're gonna okay. So then we've got sextile. Sextile is a oh, because they were talking about okay, okay. Sextile is well, let me go to this one first because sextile will be easier to explain after I explain trine. Trine is shown by a triangle. It's the
Mm.
connections are harmonious. So these are like, and they're active. They're extremely active. So this would be your power couple kind of thing. These are like two aspects that are creating harmony together. It would be very intimate. It would be lovemaking. So that would be how close they are and what they feel like. They are very close. They're very intimate with each other. They work well with each other. They create new things with each other, like very much of that power couple kind of feel.
Mm.
So then if we go to sextile, this is still harmonious, but less active. So this would be like chilling with somebody. This would be two people flirting, maybe holding hands, like, but it doesn't go any further than that. Um, it just stays on that kind of surfacey level. So somebody like you were at work with that you would like, and you would, you never really like saw them out of work, but you guys always did really well, very teamwork kind of thing together. That would be
Okay.
that. And then square. So square is the one where this is disharmonious. So square would be like squaring up and fighting somebody. So you would have two aspects that would actually be opposing each other.
Mm.
Um, it's not, it's maleficent, but it's only really harmful if it has like Saturn and Mars. Those two are your less harmonious planets, and um, they're not really that pleasant, right? They're going to either break down walls, like they're not into comfort. They don't like it. They want to they want to blow up the building. They want to break down that wall. They want to eject anything that's not serving you anymore. These are the energies that they hold. Um, they're a little bit better if they're Jupiter and Venus. This would be a little more helpful to yourself. So if if Saturn would be like Saturn and Mars working together would be like, blow that up. We don't care. Blow it up. We'll fix it later kind of energy. Where Jupiter and Venus would be more like, well, wouldn't you want to like get rid of that? Is it really helping you out? Like, we should, it'd be like cleaning your closet out. Like, you want to get this stuff out because you're not wearing it, but it doesn't really like, it'll benefit you in the long run, but it's not really hurtful.
Mm. Yeah, that makes
It doesn't, it's not uncomfortable. It's like, well, I really am keeping this shirt because my sister got it for me 3 years ago. I never liked it, never wore it, but I want to hurt her feelings kind of thing. Like, so then you get rid of it because it's not really doing you any good, like
you
that kind of
explained that very well.
things.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so the other thing is this would be an argument, but you would come to an agreement. And then if you have squares with like sun, moon, and Mercury, these are kind of like indifferent a little bit. They could really be beneficial, they could not be beneficial. Um, those energies can really be swayed either way. So then we've got opposition. So opposition would be that it's a malefic aspect. Um, this would be more like a verbal spat or not seeing eye to eye. They're kind of like polar opposite energies, and it would be the bickering. So it would be not necessarily like I want to kill that person. It would be more like, it's kind of fun to argue with somebody
Mm.
and see a different, like, it would be more of a beneficial, like if we're having an argument and I finally see your point of view, then we like understand each other a little bit better. We may not like hang out at the coffee house, but we would like come to a better understanding and more appreciative of each other's energies.
Gotcha.
It's like when you finally find out Saturn's your friend instead of
Yes,
running from her all the time.
that's a great
That,
example.
that's that energy.
Instead of being like, Saturn sucks. It's
Hmm.
like, all right, I see the purpose. I see why we need her.
Right, right, right. So that is what I have for, I have the last of stuff that I have is going to be um, Lilith, North Node, South Node, and part of Fortune.
Roll it, run the tape.
Okay, so Lilith in your chart is basically the shit you don't want to look at. But if you took a gander and you were brave, it would be where you would find the most gold. But there's a guardian that you have to get through to get that gold or to get that gift. So this is our dark feminine energy. This is where we become these are aspects that we have put away of ourselves that we have deemed bad and wrong, that are we found that we're no good, that didn't get us what we needed in society, which a lot of women obviously will. Not only women though. I mean, this is like a dark feminine in any creature that lives the earth. Humans are creatures.
Yeah, because when I was reading about Lilith, I was thinking about like how we all have like that. Think about like the confidence to walk into a room is what I was thinking about. Like you're either like you're trying to duck in and not be seen, and you're like nervous and like you're like, please nobody look at me, or you're walking in, you're like shoulders back, head high, I own that bitch. That's what it was
Mm-hmm.
for me, is like when thinking about it, it's like both sides of that coin is what like
Mm-hmm.
Lilith can do.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, it's stuff like this is if you were the first one, it'd be where you suppress your desires because somebody had told you they were bad and wrong. Um, this is where shame and our guilt and our rejection lives. Um, our biggest fears, but this is where uh we would find out what we're actually good at. This is also our primal self too, the
Mm,
one that we are just inherently like a tiger is really good at blending in and stalking, even mimicking to get what it needs. Um, so if you like looked into that and really found it, those were the gifts that you would be able to like receive. But we're so afraid of it because we've been told, especially in society right now, like we don't want to show our power because somehow that gets either attacked or it gets like misunderstood
mm,
because we're supposed to be all light and love, right? I'm supposed
right.
to be airy and I'm supposed to be, that's what we've deemed as good in this dimension right now. And what we really would like to see is more of that grounded power in women instead of um a masculine way of being feminine.
Right.
So that would be, and you guys can look up more on that kind of stuff. That's a big one. There's a lot of stuff in it, and depending on where it's at in your chart is also another like, mine, my shadow is that I want my desires is that I want to have luxury and I want to be comforted and I want all, good food because mine's in Taurus. But I don't think I deserve any of that. So that's my shadow. And that's where I need to really look at it and change that narrative. Okay, so moving on. North Node. This is our life purpose. This is where it's not necessarily going to be fun to go through this because this is where we're going to learn the lessons that we need so that we can actually use it. So, like, this would be like you making the sword and learning how to wield the sword so that you could actually use it for your benefit instead of being like just cutting whatever is around. So, the hard work in like actually forming and like making that metal into what you want, where you get the pain and the muscles building up in your body, and then also learning the skill of actually wielding it correctly and when it needs to be used.
Hmm.
That is life purpose. Um, this also can be your life path. There was a lot of stuff about self-expression. This is what your passion is. This is so like my example was, oh no, that's mine. Hold on. Yeah.
Hmm.
For my example, this is mine is in my first house in identity. So I need to create identity for myself. I have a lot of self-discovery to do. I need to exude my self-expression and my passions outwardly because I want to keep them in. So this is where my lessons are going to learn to push them out and actually be seen and be bold and speak my mind. South Node, this was kind of cute. It kind of was like she said something about it being your default setting. So when you get your phone and it comes up and it has no personality or character, this would be your default setting. Not that you don't have personality and character, I don't mean that, but it was just part of the default setting. Um, this can be an area of abundance. Uh, this is something that you have can attain a lot of, which is abundant, but you don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily make you happy. Like it's almost like that person that buys all the clothes and gets all the riches and gets everything they ever wanted, but then is still the sad person inside. They don't find the joy. Like if you're standing in a room of people and they're all there for you, but yet you still feel sad and lonely inside. That's that feeling. So you have all this stuff, but it doesn't give you joy.
Can I add to
So
that?
yeah.
Yeah, because I also saw that even like the South Node can be described as like your natural skills or gifts, right? But it's also where a lot of our traumas sit from previous lives.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I wanted to add that because I feel like that I did not know because I feel like it was like all about past gifts. And then I read from an astrologer who was saying that like that's where a lot of your traumas can come from too. So it shows you like areas that you still have to work on and it can be looked at like a gift. But then if it's something like you said, the default, it can also be something that's
Hmm.
really like it causes trauma again in the ways that you've experienced in past lives.
Which it totally makes sense because if you're getting all this stuff that's easy to come to you, like fame or fortune, but yet you commit suicide because you're not happy, then that's exactly that feeling. It's like, oh, you got everything you wanted, but it's not giving you any benefit, right?
Right,
Like even,
exactly.
um, what is mine is also in my seventh house in Taurus.
Hmm.
So I have a lot of things, but none of it makes me happy. That's it. I'm burning this place down.
Mine made a lot of sense because when I looked it up and it said mine's in Gemini, which can indicate that you were overly talkative or were prone to gossip in a past life. And sometimes I feel like that happens now where I have to like be like, whoa, I'm talking too much, or like it's just like, why am I? It's just there. It's just going. Like, why? What am I even saying at this point? And then you realize that I'm like, oh,
Ooh,
okay. Now I know where that comes from, what I can work on.
right, right. Hey, where's your Lilith at?
Um, in Aries in the first house.
Aries, and what'd you find out about that?
That's where my strong need for independence and autonomy come from, which makes a lot of sense because I feel that a lot in relationships. But then also was saying that like I have to learn to stop relying on others to lead and to follow my own instincts, where then I can experience the growth and gain from like actually letting myself rely on myself. It's like that Aries wants to be number one and it wants to push forward and it has all these ideas, but then I like immediately if somebody has something else that's a different idea, I'll like bring it back in and be like, forget it. But then I'm questioning myself and being like, fuck, well, why didn't I like follow my instincts or why didn't I speak up and say something? And so like that's part of that like Lilith for me is learning how to like allow her to come forward sometimes and be like what
Mm-hmm.
she's there for.
Mm-hmm.
But
Very
yeah,
nice.
I have to look more into it.
Um, and I had past life, mastering past life, energy, first, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay. So last of my segment, um, part of fortune, which is something that I discussed or found out that existed in the last episode, right? Part of
Yeah.
fortune, which is a calculation. It's not an actual, like, it's not a planet or a fixed star, or a comet or an asteroid or whatever the fuck is out there. It is literally the calculations of your sun, moon, and rising. You have to like plus this, minus that, blah, 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 and it shows you where it's at. there are computers that'll do it on, what is it, Astrology Cafe Astrology, that dot
Um,
com.
I also found out if you look up your Placidus, it's right on there. Every Placidus that I pulled up, which I found was funny that it was on the Placidus, but not on your whole, that the part of fortune. But there is, where is that? Yeah, I found mine on my Placidus, but mine was on Cafe Astrology. They had it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a gift. It can also represent health, abundance, fate, and fortune. There was a lot of like talk about this, about different things. So, um, I would, because it also depends exactly about where it's resting and what flavor is the house that it's in.
I like I've never even heard of that until the last episode, and then I was like, what's this?
What's this? What's
What's
this?
this? What house is yours? Yours was in eighth
Mine
house,
is
maybe?
it's in Gemini in the eighth house.
I had it earlier.
Eighth house, Gemini, which, let's see here. If I teach if I teach the occult, I think I will do well.
Yeah, curious mind, gift for communication, makes you adept for navigating diverse social circles and forging valuable connections. And I can't remember what area taught. I can sometimes it's like I can pull that stuff out and then I can't remember what the eighth house is about.
All right. Well, it's other people's money,
Mm.
death and transformation, hidden things. Um, that's all I got.
That was a lot.
I know. Tired now. Just kidding. All right. So what you got for us, Kathy?
Okay, so you brought up the Placidus house system. Was it last episode or the episode before? And so I looked that up and to make it simple, because like there's also 12 house systems that you could look up and read from, which I did not know until this morning.
Do they just make them up, or is it just like did some astrologer be like, aha, I'm gonna do this? Or is it somewhere?
So actually, I tried to make this pretty simple because I felt like I could have kept going and going and going, and all of a sudden I'm 5 pages long, and I'm glad I made it as simple as I could. But there is the whole house system. There are different astrologers that have come up with this stuff, essentially, yes, in different centuries and like different like places, you know. Like
Okay.
I think Placidus, I'd have to look it up again. I can see a name, but I can't. It's fuzzy. I feel like I read it somewhere and I'm like, oh, I read that.
Yeah.
So your whole house system, just to make this super simple, which we pretty much know this because this is the chart you normally would see when you use like these apps like the pattern or even like what's the other one? CoStar, things like that.
Co-star, yeah.
The whole house system assigns each house the full span of one zodiac sign. So it's basically just an equal pie. It's equally divided into 12. And it's the emphasis on the signs rather than the specific degrees. So the difference being with the Placidus is you're going to be looking and you're going to care more about the degrees because your Placidus house system divides the houses unevenly based on the time and
Hmm.
location of your birth, allowing for like a very detailed analysis because degrees in your chart matter for Placidus house system. Which I was like,
That makes sense.
oh man, a whole nother world. I feel like I'm just getting
Well,
used to
totally.
whole house.
Well, yeah, because it's so odd that when you put in whole house, like I have aspects in totally different places, and then you put placid, and you're like, well, fuck me now because
Yeah,
it all
literally.
changed. Like,
Everything. I'm like, wait, what? So I feel like we should just quickly touch on degrees on your house because, like I said, this could have been a whole episode of its own. But
hmm
essentially, each zodiac sign in a whole house system is gonna consist of 30 degrees, and that makes up the full
hmm
circle of a 360-degree circle. It's gonna be different in a placidus, and that's where that the degrees come into play, I guess, like the meanings behind degrees. And so
Okay.
there's this thing called degree theory, and
Okay.
it's a really analytical approach to astrology, which adds layers of meaning to placements according to their degrees. And this
But I
whole
also know
astrologer dude came up with this.
there's also, I think, I don't know if it's the same thing, but I've seen it where they've put tarot cards in each of the degrees. So it helps you like understand it or something like that. I mean, I've seen it. That's all I got for that. But
I mean, I could totally see that because as we know with tarot cards is like our tarot cards can read our whole entire life for us, just like, astrology can. So I bet that correlation's there.
hmm
So, by examining the degree of a planet, the associations with other signs and personal tendencies can be understood in a much more detailed way. So, if that's something that interests you, look up degree theory. And then, literally, there are like, just to give you a little flavor, because I kept this up because I was just like, holy Lord have mercy. This could just, I could, we could go on for days just about the degrees and like, what that means and what each one means. Where is it? It is right here. Okay. So there's like critical disease for cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs. So like Capricorn and Libra being cardinal signs. Am I glitching?
No, not by sound.
No? Okay, great. Cool. Because my
Yeah. Like
internet all of a sudden decided to
your
be
picture is glitchy, but your voice is not. You're
stunning.
good.
We'll take it.
Yep, we'll take it. Heathens.
So for the cardinal signs, like you and I, the Libra Capricorn, the critical disease, Christ, the
I
critical
thought she said
degrees.
that the first time, and I was like, no, it just mumbled out. It'll be fine.
No, Lord. So these are 0, 13, and 26. So critical degrees in your chart means you're more likely to face challenges in that sign until the kind time comes that you transmute that challenge into your greatest strength.
Okay.
So like there's even more. Like Capricorn has 10 and 22. Those are good degrees that are ruled by Capricorn. So if you have a Capricorn placement in a 10 degree or a 22 degree, it's even stronger because those two degrees are ruled by Capricorn. Like for me and like even you with your Libra placements, Libra is going to be 7 and 19, and those degrees focus on connecting rationality and using the mind to understand laws of cause and effect. So those two degrees are ruled by Libra. Like degree theory is getting deep in it, babe. I'm like, holy Lord.
That's super cool, though.
It's fascinating. Fascinating. Oh, here it is. This is invented by astrologer Nicholas Stojavinic. Stojanovich, some Stojanovic for those of you that want to look this up. This is really cool because I feel like even adding in this depth in the future, because this is a lot in my opinion right now for us babies learning astrology.
You're right.
When you see a degree and you can like pinpoint it with something that like that sign rules that degree, it'll be easier to even further understand like what that means. It's almost like understanding a tarot card, but then pulling another card that helps you understand it even more, and you get even deeper and deeper into the tarot card and you understand it even more instead of just knowing the surface words.
It's so fascinating because it is, especially when you start getting to those correspondence where it's like, oh, this also means this. And then you're like, oh, so this is stronger because it's in Capricorn and it is Capricorn and its degree is Capricorn. And yeah,
Yes. So yes, that's degrees. I
okay.
that's a bit there. So let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, so let's talk about your vertex and your anti-vertex. When you, we know that the North Node and South Node are across from each other, right? So are
Mm-hmm.
your midheaven, and your imum coli. Those are directly
Yeah.
across from each other, as well as your anti-vertex is going to be in your first house, and your vertex is going to be in your seventh house. They are exact opposites in your chart. They and then the midheaven and imum coli and the vertex and anti-vertex make like a crosser in your chart.
Mm-hmm.
So your vertex is used to interpret karmic connections in significant life experiences. So it's associated with like fate, destiny, and preordained events that cannot be changed through personal choice or free will. So your vertex is you always going to be located in the Western hemisphere of the chart and relates to one's external world, particularly contacts and relationships with others, because seventh house,
Mm-hmm.
relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I read this and I really enjoyed this explanation of this because I just thought it fit us really well. It says imagining the vertex as a portal suggests that its activation by like any planetary transits or progressions opens the door to experience that can transcend our ordinary perception of time and space. And it can like push us beyond our boundaries into like outside of like just our everyday reach. So that kind of a vision will invites us to explore the vertex, not just in terms of encounters with significant people or situations, but as a threshold to deeper understanding of our own nature and the universe. And I was like, ooh, that's really good.
That's cool.
So,
So do you have an example in your chart? Like what, how would you translate that?
um, I have it right here. I'm sorry, I blanked for a minute. North Node, South Node, Midhaven. I kept all this up for us just in case because I feel like it it's can sometimes be easier to understand when we have like our little reading guys here. Um, so that I will say that I found much more on your vertex than I did your anti-vertex. Those were the anti-vertex, there wasn't a ton on it. Oh, apparently I did not. Okay. Well, my vertex being in the seventh house, that's karmic encounters and significant experience are linked to like relationships and partners, so they can influence the love life and close connections. Significant meetings and karmic encounters often occur in the realm of committed partners. So the karmic nature of connections with the vertex in the seventh house can also suggest past life ties with partners or significant others. And it's important to be open to what relationships can teach me and to discern like what connections are truly fated for growth. So basically all relationships, committed relationships are going to carry a lesson
Okay.
with the vertex there. Is your vertex in your seventh house as well?
Where did you find that? Because I don't,
Mm, on the pattern.
oh,
I didn't see it in
oh,
my Placidus.
oh, please. Signs. Where did, oh, Amicoli, vertex, anti-vert. My anti-vertex is in Scorpio. My vertex is in Taurus.
Okay. So, and it's in the seventh house, right?
Yes.
I would have to look. I'm trying to think. So it's like fate, destiny, preordained events. This is karmic connections, significant life experiences with it being in Taurus. I wonder if that's more like that grounding influence of like partners teaching that or learning that through them
Oh yeah. Yep.
or learning to buy more stuff. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, my own personal, I'm wondering if this is that whole thing of where I get people in and then like have like a whirlwind and then they kind of fall off. Like
Hmm.
it's this whole pattern that keeps like in and out, in and out, in and out. And I learn great things from them, but there is a separation which my Taurus has a hard time separating.
Yeah, that makes sense. Taurus doesn't want to do that, right?
Well, no, it's a fixed sign. It's like, no, you're supposed to stay here forever. It's supposed to keep you in a box under my bed.
Under my bed. So, with us talking about vertex, let's talk about anti-vertex because this is it's on your chart exact opposite of vertex, and it's usually in your
Mm-hmm.
first house. This is going to hold significance in self-realization, emotional healing, and inner equilibrium. So where your vertex is going to be the outer move forward through relationships with others, this is your inner move forward with relationships with yourself. So your anti-vertex is going to act as a guiding force on your journey of self-discovery and personal growth. So with it being in our first house, it means that we have a lot of control over our sense of identity and how we present ourselves. And it means that it's in this lifetime, it's calling you to relate to others more and become more of a people person too, depending on which sign it is, which I'm sorry, that was specific to my sign. I'm sorry. Mine's in
I was like,
Pisces. So mine's like calling more to be a people person and it's calling me more to
mm-hmm,
it's pushed me to have many one-on-one close relationships and it will continue to
mm-hmm,
happen throughout my lifetime because it's that relation to others through the sign Pisces.
mm-hmm.
What is yours in?
Scorpio.
I was quite perplexed at how little there was for the anti-vertex in research. I had to go through
Well, because people don't want to, they don't necessarily want to work on themselves. They want to, what they can gain from it
hmm.
outside.
I would say what I did is I looked up anti-vertex on TikTok and I found astrologers talking about your 2 points and like what those houses were in. So like if you had like mine, I found mine on there and that's how I found that like the one being pushed to have like close one-on-one relationships and like learning how to like relate to others more was where my
Mm-hmm.
anti-vertex in Pisces, what that meant. And she had quite a few on there. Wonder if I could find her quickly. If I do, I will put her TikTok in our show
Okay.
notes. We're not here forever. Um,
Wherever.
okay, so next I have your descendant, which is opposite your ascendant. And this is always going to be at the top of your seventh house. And this is a chart point rather than a planet or celestial body. This is, like I said, the opposite your ascendant. And let's see, while your ascendant is representing like your personal energy, right? Like your sense of self, your self-image, the descendant is all about what you seek in relationships with others. So this is much more concerned with others on the outside of you and indicates what you most wish you were like or the person you'd like to become see yourself become. So like my descendant is in Virgo, meaning I seek someone who can like keep a plan together and practicality, elegance, faithfulness, and inquisitive mind is what I had read.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What is your descendant in?
It is in Aries.
Where? do. Yours is an Aries. Aries says you seek someone who isn't afraid to take the time for themselves and value who they are. As the sign is accompanied by a Libra rising, you seek a partner who is sociable, charming, compassionate, and ambitious.
Is.
Okay, moving on. I only have
Moving on.
three more. Okay, your MM Coley. I hope I'm saying that right. Please don't come for me if I'm not. This is exactly opposite of the midheaven. And this is one of those four angles we were talking about that make that X or cross in it. And this reflects your intimate family life. So this explores the deepest depths of your inner world and unpins what sorry, of domestic foundation you should create for yourself. So this can help illuminate the depths of your soul and give you clarity about how you truly are. And you'll find that in Mkoli point at the cusp of your fourth house, which makes sense given that it's like marking heavily focused on your home roots, private life, ancestors, and foundations.
Mhm,
So like when a planet comes in contact with your Emin Coli, particularly as a conjunction, which thank you for giving us what that means, it
mhm.
can represent qualities or characteristics of your upbringing as well. So mine's in Gemini, meaning I could have had frantic disruptions in childhood, such as sibling rivalry or moving homes a lot, which is very true. Very, very true.
But I do. Oh, mine's an Aquarius.
Yours is in Aquarius. Let's see here. What did they say about Aquarius? Seeing an Imamcoli in Aquarius can indicate the home wasn't warm and fuzzy. Aquarius is the most distant zodiac sign, so seeing it here can indicate that parents were distant from children and or one another as well. So a lot of home life stuff in that one, which I
Yeah,
feel like if you dug deeper, you could probably potentially look for healing through that as well.
absolutely. That sounds like you can pull that tether and like really heal your inner child at that point.
I agree. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, I was like, I'm looking into that one more later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
Um,
that's kind of like very on the nose, just in that little expert or little expert.
yeah, I'm like, one little sentence is like, who?
I know. I
Oh,
was like, oh,
oh,
oh, I feel so seen.
same.
Stop looking. I'm hiding
Um,
that.
okay, next let's go into retrogrades. And I was going to ask you because I feel like you're really good at explaining things. The article I was reading was really good at explaining like how it works in your birth chart, but can you explain a retrograde to us? Because it made it sound like they described it and I couldn't understand this, so maybe you can help me with this and then help us with this. As a retrograde being, if you're a planet in retrograde, it's like being at a stoplight. The light goes green and somebody rips off the line and you feel like you're moving backwards because somebody's moving faster than you. I was like,
Yeah,
that
I can
doesn't,
see how that was that. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So the way retrograde was calculated is basically because we're sitting on the Earth, right?
Hmm.
So when a planet, because the circles of the orbits around the sun are not the same, some are going faster than some are going slower, depending on where they are. So at some points, when they say they're going retrograde, from our point of view, Mercury looks like it's standing still.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
So it goes backwards because of the point of the Earth, because we're looking at it from the Earth. And that's why it looks like it's going backwards.
Thank you for making that simpler because I read three paragraphs worth of explanations of like how that actually like what a retrograde actually is. And I was like, I need an adult. I need a freaking
Right.
adult. I can't.
I don't know where it is, but there is a diagram where it will actually show you what it looks like
Hmm.
as all the planets are like going around the sun. It'll actually show you what it looks like. And I think that's a really good like explanation of it.
Yes, I will be looking that up.
Hmm.
So, a retrograde is going to signify a person who feels the need to deviate from the norm from time to time. What I found is most people have 2 to 3 planets retrograde in their chart, but more than 3 planets retrograde is relatively rare and signifies a person. And this is like what I read, and I was like, interesting, but I don't know how I felt about this. But you having more, I wonder how you feel about this. They said that with it being relatively rare, it signifies a person who is out of step with the world around them and strongly devoted to finding their own unique path in life. So it's like you're not following the norm.
Um, I know I've got some retrogrades, but I don't know how many.
I have 5.
Something simple.
Something simple. Having more than 3 is relatively rare. Okay.
Well, you're rare. Hold on, I don't know how to work this phone. Oh, here we go. I don't know if it actually tells me retrograde. Oh, wait. I have three.
I read that with Mars, Venus, or Mercury retrograde, there may be a focus or accent on the inner life, or a person may tend to perceive things very subjectively. With Jupiter, Saturn in retrograde, with Jupiter and Saturn in retrograde, a person may feel out of step with like the dominant culture or like an intense desire to affect change in society. And then the outer planets retrograde may signify a generational or cross culture in one's life, which can cause them to feel somewhat out of touch with current trends.
Which makes sense. Yeah, I
Hmm.
have Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury.
Mm.
I thought I had Mars too, but where's my Mars?
All right. My last one. You ready for it?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
My last one is empty houses. The best way that I saw this described is keep in mind there's only 10 planets and there are 12 houses. So by default, that is always going to leave room for at least 2 empty houses. And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
duh. Okay. The empty houses simply means that that is not a part in your life. That means that part of your life is not as challenging as a house with 1 or more planets. The houses with planets are the houses that we have more lessons to learn or to focus on in this lifetime. So, for example, like having a planets missing from a second house could indicate like stable cash flow or stable career or being really good at business ventures. And that's what I got.
Ooh, that's a
Yep.
lot.
Just those little bits of information, little extra
Just
bits.
just tiny little, it's fine.
The extra bits.
Wait a minute. Something happened to my chart. What happened? I don't know what's going on. I'm not gonna look at it. It's all fucked up. Because I was trying to look at the retrogrades to see what I had. I thought Mars was retrograde, but
Yeah, because I had thought that you had said you had quite a few that were in retrograde.
hmm. Oh, I did a 2 p.m. instead of a 2 a.m. Okay, so that is why. That is why.
Yeah, you're like looking at your chart like none of this makes sense.
It was all backwards. I was like, what the fuck? Like my first house was in Aries, and I was like, what
Like,
is going on?
no.
Yeah, it still says that it's just Saturn, Jupiter, and I forget which thing that we look at that actually told us. Because there was a chart that I looked at that actually showed like whether they were retrograde or not, and I don't know which one I was looking at. But at last, I don't think it really matters.
Right. It's like, because you can get so, if there is one thing we have learned through our astrology venture that we are closing after this episode, which I love astrology and this is going to be a forever life thing, but thank God. This is not a small task. It's not a small task to read your own chart, and it would definitely not be a small task at all to read somebody else's for them. I have
Well, and
so
that's the
much
whole thing.
respect.
Absolutely. Like this is why you pay your astrologer big dollars because they have spent many hours in books, in lectures, in practice. Um, this is this is exactly why.
I'm like, they should have PhDs for astrologers because this is like huge subjects that just like can go so deep. The fact that there are 12 different house systems that you could potentially read off of,
Hmm.
like, blows my mind.
Well, and that's the thing is like, you don't, when you go to an astrology, you don't necessarily take it as like the word, right? You take it as like a pointing direction, like a focus, if you will, because even you have to realize that all this information is filtered through this. So
Mhm.
that my own personal biases, my own adventures through life is going to cloud and judge my um the way I translate your chart, right? So
Yeah.
if you don't, that doesn't mean that you get to like, well, they're wrong. They could be right, but it might be like they didn't have the words to actually say it right, or they don't know what, like they, I don't want to say, I want to say they don't know what they're talking about, but I mean it in a way that's like they see something, but you can't compute what you're seeing.
It's like
You know
almost
what I mean?
information overload where it's like you can't
Yeah,
even pick out one word. You're just seeing like this huge thing and you're like, I don't even know. It could be like a cow and you're like, I have no idea what that is because there's a million things around it.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, and you might not even know what a cow is. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it might be at that point, like you're like, I'm seeing this happen, but I have no idea what it is. You
right.
know, like seeing an animal that you've never seen before. Watching a uh like aliens, like look at aliens. Like you could see one and you would be like, can't compute, right?
Cannot
Like
compute.
I don't that's not in any of the subcategories that I have created in my head. Like that has its own category because I don't know what the fuck that is. So it's kind of like that. And then trying to explain to somebody what you don't understand, what you saw, that's exactly how that is. And
Yeah.
that's how it gets like mis.
Yeah, like misinterpreted, I guess is a good way to
Right,
say it, right?
right.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain that. Astrology readings can be really helpful. They can give you like things to look at for yourself, and you take what matters.
Hmm.
It's just like tarot readings, right? You take what resonates,
Hmm.
but they are fun.
Um, if you get somebody that does a progressive chart too, you can even, all right, so some people would in the beginning of the year or towards the end of the year look at their chart for the following year. And then this way they can plan if they know the energies are how they are, then they can plan like, hey, I really want to buy a house. But
Oh,
next
yes.
year, the only time I can buy a house that the energy is favorable for it would be between this and this, right? So, and it's not in cement. This is a very fluid talk and a very fluid way of making decisions. So, just because like I need to buy a house because of whatever, um, doesn't necessarily like I can't buy it, but only from here to here. And it's like, well, it would be favorable there. You could buy a house at any time. It just, you might have a few more hoops to go through. Like they lose your paperwork at the title company, or somebody buys that house out from under you like three, four times. Like it's that kind of energy compared to like, well, I know it's not going to run completely smoothly. These are some things that I'm going to have to work to get where I'm at.
Beautifully said. Here, here.
Here, here, here.
That's just such a great way to think about like how you could use astrology as like
Hmm.
just to like try to like give you almost like the best possible chance at whatever you're looking to achieve.
Right, right. And if it happens to like, if you can plan your life, because life happens, right? So if you can plan your life around it, or use those energy, like this is exactly why, okay, so we have a full moon coming up. What are the energies that I'm looking at? Okay. So I need to really think about it helps me focus on my life instead of being like, I don't know what to look at because there's so much. This helps me kind of focus in on like, oh, so the energy is favorable for letting go of old feelings that no longer serve me and really looking into that shadow point of my being. And I can be like, oh, that's a good idea, and use that as my like focus, but not necessarily, it's not going to govern my whole life. I am the governor of my life. So I use these things for my tools on how to navigate my life or how to like, that's it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That's like when we were
Mhm.
saying like what the fuck's going on? So you go and you look so that you kind of have an understanding. It almost like opens your eyes to being like, oh, okay, people are gonna be sensitive and that's okay. It's not about you. You're not a victim to this, or like you might be sensitive, things like that, where I'm like, astrology, I feel like helps a lot just to make things okay for like my judgmental self against myself. When I'm playing
Right.
judge and jury against myself and I make myself feel awful.
You're like, oh God.
It's like, okay, get up, let's go. You're fine. Now I get
Hmm.
it. Okay, peeps. So that concludes astrology. And n next week we'll be talking about cults. We're very excited for
Ooh,
that.
yes, we are.
We're getting into some spooky stuff. So,
Very excited because I watched one and I was like, what? The actual, like, how do you get from there to there? Like, I don't,
what happened?
what happened?
Get ready for a lot of those questions.
Seriously, I was like, what?
Yeah.
At some point, didn't you go, maybe we should,
Ooh,
we're good. We're gonna go.
yeah.
It was really nice to meet you. Like, I don't understand why that didn't come in to be like, like when we went into that one class and the thing, and then was like, oh,
I
you're
feel like
like,
we
we should
should.
go. And I was like, yeah, but then we're gonna stand up and they're gonna see us
Yeah.
walk out.
Yeah. That was like that could have been a drink the Kool-Aid moment.
Hmm.
They're like, here's some Kool-Aid. You want some? And we're like, no.
We gotta, oh, look at the time.
Oh, your class is up. Gotta run.
I gotta go.
Anything other than this. So yeah, we'll be talking cults, man. We're excited for that episode. I think it'll be fun. It's gonna be interesting, that's for sure.
It'll be very interesting. I've already have questions.
Yeah, seriously, same. All right, peeps. Well, we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.